We know in the work that we've done the tolls that digital pressures can take on young people and also the ripple effect that has on families, parents.
They can't stand each other. I was curious if she had had a nose job, some sort of plastic surgery, because those 2 months would give her plenty of time to recover.
Wow. I've got the video that proves Prince Harry cannot stomach his wife. He's had enough. He can't even hide it anymore in public. Watch this.
We know in the work that we've done the tolls that digital pressures can take on young people and also the ripple effect that has on families, parents, entire.
He's feeling like all of us. But this is the man who's meant to love her, who's meant to trust her. He can't stand it either. The rolling of the eyes. Now, we're going to talk about that, but we've also got to talk about this because it was sort of missed a little bit in the initial reaction to the word salad of the Gayle King interview on Friday. But what is up with Meghan Markle's new face? I mean, to me, you can see under her ear the clear results of plastic surgery. So I want to get into all of this with Brittany, who is the editor of the Royal News Network now. But Brittany, can I just play you once more? Because I think it's worth just seeing again that moment when I think Prince Harry snapped in public. He probably thought, oh, they'll edit it out. This isn't live. But he could no longer hide his disdain for his own wife. Watch.
We know in the work that we've done the tolls that digital pressures can take on young people and also the ripple effect that has on families, parents.
I mean, Brittany, the whole interview was so terrible. She did keep interrupting him. Like, she wouldn't allow him to speak or have his moments. So in some ways, I'm not blaming him, but that did feel like quite a seminal moment.
It did. And it's a continuation of what we saw in the CBS interview from August of 2024, when it looked like at points that they could not stand each other. I think it's why we haven't seen them, because I'm trying to rack my brain. When did they do kind of a side-by-side interview like that? And they haven't done it for a little bit. I think in part because they can't stand each other. They have completely different views on things. And when they're talking about, in that whole situation, talking about parents, I thought it was really interesting. I think it was about that word or so that Harry did look off to the side, because it has been revealed through the collapse of Archewell that they've shuffled the Parents Network off to a completely different organization, and they have really nothing to do with it anymore. So they champion these causes and then they just flat out abandon them. And I imagine Harry, and probably in some ways, is feeling that himself, because I don't think things are going particularly well in their relationship at this point. And we definitely saw the cracks start to emerge in August of 2024. And it's just really continued. They can keep up the act for little bits of time, but if they're really getting on each other's nerves, if they can't stand each other, Harry especially can't fake it. Meghan can fake the adoring gaze, like she did it at the mental health awards like a couple of weeks ago. It's like, we know that's fake. We know 100% she's posing with the look of adoration. She doesn't really feel it. Harry can't fake it quite as well. And so you see him have natural reactions to things. And yeah, at some points, he probably just wants to say, hey, I want to talk. We're tired of your word salad. I don't even understand what you're saying, let alone anybody else, Meghan. Just let me talk for 2 seconds. It probably won't make a ton of sense either, but the guy just feels totally emasculated, and you feel it.
God, you really do. You really do. Now, Brittany, your verdict on the face. I mean, I think when you look at the before and after pictures that I've put together here, it is undeniable that there has been a surgical change. I'm not completely dismissing the fact, Brittany, that when it came to the interview, as Tom Sykes told me here on Outspoken, he believed that there was the use of one of these apps, which sort of enhance someone's face on screen. But it's not really, that doesn't really explain a lot of the other changes, Brittany, including what's going on there.
It's interesting. I can't really say. I mean, I was sort of curious during the summer because there was a period between about and not even most of August, between July and August, did we see much of Meghan Markle? And I was thinking at the time, it's mostly an effect of pursing her lips to blow out the candles that makes her nose look a little flatter because her nose is still pretty much the same now. But I was curious if she had had a nose job, some sort of plastic surgery, because those 2 months would give her plenty of time to recover if that is indeed what had happened. So I am definitely not ruling out that possibility. But I do find it interesting that they feel the need to use some sort of, let's say, filter because definitely you can. I mean, I'm fairly easily able to come up with a pretty good setup, and I don't live in a $16 million mansion. So I am firmly believe that Harry and Meghan could figure this out without the use of filters to look better. It's usually makeup. You usually have to upgrade your makeup if you have a better lens. So Harry and Meghan, no idea what's going on, why they feel the need to do that, why they still continue to do that. It's really, really odd, as if they don't get internet in their house. It's very strange. But when it comes to plastic surgery, that I can't tell you. But there was a 2 month time period this summer where she definitely could have had something done.
Yeah, exactly. Why is she disappearing, Brittany? And it is odd because she does disappear for a long time at once. You see, that is what's interesting. Yeah, there's certainly been windows, put it that way. And Brittany, of course, this interview, which I think was just a total car crash, total disaster, yet again shows there's also no strategy with Harry and Meghan. Because do you remember all last year in the Meredith Maines, James Holt strategy? Now, of course, they're out the door now, which might explain this new start of the year. It was, there's going to be a professional separation because, as you said, after the CBS interview, there was sort of that acknowledgement of, okay, they're not happy together anymore. It's no longer working when we put them in public anymore because the cracks between them are so obvious to the world. Do you think this is a new strategy, like we are going to see more of them, or is it literally they just have no idea and they do whatever is convenient to them at that particular moment?
Tonight, a new public appearance by Meghan Markle has reignited royal debate, not just because of her noticeably refreshed look, but because of Prince Harry's increasingly distant behaviour. As Meghan unveils what many are calling a carefully rebranded image, royal watchers are focusing on something else entirely: Harry's visible discomfort, silence, and apparent disengagement. Dan teams up with the Royal News Network to examine whether this growing emotional distance is accidental, or a sign of deeper strain within the Sussex marriage. Is this a simple case of media pressure, or are cracks finally becoming impossible to hide?
I think, Dan, it's whatever gets them money, whatever they think is convenient at that period of time, because Meghan is still under the assumption that being a part of the Oprah Winfrey Network is actually beneficial to her. I don't really think it is anymore. The Oprah obsession, you could say, is 10 to 15 years old. At this point, most people have moved on. And so Harry and Meghan are just desperately grasping at any sort of straws to make themselves relevant. And you feel that. That's why they're not relevant, is because they're constantly jumping to thing. And there's no strategy, there's no passion, there's nothing really holding them together when it comes to a brand except for, oh, we're former royals of the British royal family. Give us attention, give us money because we're royals and we bought a house that's too expensive for us to live in. And we have massive security needs because we have big egos and we need the motorcade. Everybody loves a motorcade. And so there's this whole, I think, aspect to them there that's completely behind the times. That's actually my thumbnail. It's completely behind the times.
I love it. I thought it was perfect based on what you were saying.
Yeah, it's just absolutely crazy how I think disengaged they are, and they're just constantly trying different things. And that's why nothing is working. If they had a solid strategy, even, pre-Mexit, or had adjusted when their initial strategy was shot down, they would be so much better off. But I think why they can't gain an audience, why they can't gain traction is that people don't like them, people don't trust them, and in part because we have no idea what they stand for. We have no idea. They change it from day to day depending on the whims of the hour. And that's not a winning strategy in this economy of authenticity.
Well, the strategy was very much, we're just going to be beloved in Hollywood and like going to walk around and say really boring things, and they're going to throw hundreds of millions of dollars at us each. And it's going to be really easy. I promise. I know all of these people, they love me. But look, Brittany, we've got to unpick what is going on with Was Never, because this to me now feels like a £27 million lie. Something that you pointed out over the weekend after the Daily Telegraph took it as read that there were £27 million worth of sales. And you said this estimate is outright false and a completely wrong interpretation of the data we got from the data leak. It failed to account for the spreads being sold in trios, and at the very least tripled her revenue, though that also fails to account for the jars not being used just for the trios. This is literally basic math, and it's an absolute shame the Times perpetuated this absolute inaccurate interpretation of the data. If Meghan Markle had sold £27 million, she would be screaming from the rooftops about it. Not to mention, you don't drop your COO when the company is going well. And again, Brittany, it just astonishes me, and this is why we can never trust the mainstream media, how quick they have been to swallow the Kool-Aid or the shitty spread of as ever when it comes to these figures, rather than actually look at the truth. Like the shocking stats that you revealed, Brittany, like the fact that she'd sold no cider mulling kits. What was it, over the course of 24 hours?
Yeah,
there's
none, in 12 hours.
14,000 of them in stock. And what was the other 9 jars of jam? I mean, seriously.
It's so easy, Dan, to look at the data and see the obviousness, because I do have a 24-hour time period of the trio sets, the box trio sets that it was Kate Manessy who used to get that number. And she sold only 26 of them in a 24-hour time period, and it has 137,000 in stock. That's like 0.001% of her stock or something like that, or 0.01. It's a minuscule amount. And so there's just no way that she moved, because to get to that number, what they did is they minused 137,000 by 1 million, got 800 some odd thousand, times that by 42. And that's how they got that multi-million-dollar number. But if you actually add up all her stock left, she has at least 500 to 600,000 jars still in stock. So there's just absolutely no way that metric is true. And it was interesting because I recorded a video that I'm going to show today. But when it comes to Meghan and these jars, she says that she started off with a couple thousand and then jumped to 1 million. You shouldn't make those giant leaps unless you can justify it. And so she confirmed she went with very, very small numbers initially, and then has gone now with huge numbers, and unfortunately radically overestimated the interest. And now she's sitting on a ton of merchandise that she can't move. And so that interpretation is a complete lie. And again, if Meghan was doing unbelievably well with As Ever, you know she would be screaming about it. You know she would be letting us know, hey, I sold 1 million jars or whatever. She hasn't come out with that because it's not true. And it just took some basic math to figure that out. Like, it was not hard to figure out.
No.
But somehow the Times missed it. And that's bad for, I think, journalism overall. That the paper of record is false.
But it's happened in all of the mainstream media outlets over here, Brittany. Like The Sun, which is totally in the tank these days for Harry and Meghan, just swallowing the fact that this shows the business as a success when it does no such thing. But Rob Shooter has some really worrying news out over the weekend. Worrying if you're Harry and Meghan, because apparently it was an all-in bet. As ever, no backers, no safety net, millions on the line. Here's his reporting from his brilliant Substack, Shooter Scoop. Insiders tell me Meghan Markle and Prince Harry didn't just launch their new lifestyle venture, they bankrolled it themselves, convinced it would explode into $1 billion empire. No silent partners, no wealthy backers, just their own money and a whole load of faith. Now, that gamble is starting to look terrifying. Sources say the Sussexes personally paid for all the inventory tied to Meghan's as-ever brand, from jam and honey to candles, teas, and edible flower sprinkles, believing demand would go global fast. It didn't. They were absolutely convinced this was the one, a source tells me. They thought it would be bigger than Goop, bigger than anything Meghan had ever done. They went all in, and by all in, insiders mean millions. Online sleuths recently uncovered the staggering scale of the stockpile, hundreds of thousands of jars and products sitting in warehouses heading into 2026. That inventory isn't cheap, a retail insider explains. This isn't Etsy pricing. This is luxury production, luxury packaging, luxury storage, all paid for up front. The most shocking part, no outside investors. Harry and Meghan didn't want interference or opinions, another source said. They wanted total control and total upside. But total control also means total risk. Now insiders fear the couple could lose everything they put in. If this doesn't move fast, it's a bloodbath, one source warns bluntly. Unsold stock, sunk costs, zero bailout. For instance, Meghan sees this as a global expansion moment, not a crisis. But behind the scenes, the mood is darker. They believe this would make them billions, a source admits. Instead, they're staring at the possibility that millions are already gone. It's the ultimate high-stakes gamble, and the Sussexes have no safety net left. Brittany, wow, that really is worrying for them.
Reduced joint appearances, awkward body language, and carefully controlled messaging have all fueled speculation that Harry's priorities may no longer align with Meghan's relentless public reinvention. The Royal News Network breaks down the facts, separating verified behaviour from online theory, and asks a crucial question. Has the Sussex brand reached a point where image management is no longer enough to mask personal tension? One thing is certain. Audiences are noticing the shift, and the narrative is no longer fully controlled. If you want calm, honest royal analysis without spin, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, comment below. Are we seeing real tension or just media overreach?
I've always been of the opinion Netflix maybe gave her a little bit of seed money for As Ever, but not a lot. I mean, Netflix is not banking on the slightest in this thing being successful. And I, again, would not be surprised if Harry and Meghan themselves put millions upon millions of dollars into it. And it's not selling. It's not moving. My calculations put it, and it was a generous estimate, only about 200 products moving in a day. That's nothing compared to the stockpiles that she has. All that storage costs money. They have to worry about expiration and these sorts of things. And she has 137,000. This is important. 137,000 gift boxes that were for Christmas, a season that is gone. And so she radically, again, overestimated the interest in the brand. And this goes all back to just basic things. Like, she could have learned a lot of basic lessons just by watching Shark Tank. They rail people for over investing in stock when they don't have the actual research. She did really small quantities and then jumped to absolutely huge quantities and didn't do the proper research. And she has no idea at this point, especially with tariff risks and these sorts of things, how easily she can move her product internationally, how well it'll sell. Will it cover the stocks in warehouse? I don't know, because she's not a popular figure. I mean, even Gwyneth Paltrow is more popular than she is, and Gwyneth Paltrow is not a hugely popular figure. But this all comes back to just absolute blunder after blunder after blunder after blunder when it comes to As Ever, starting with the name, which was originally American Riviera Orchard. Meghan Markle cannot run a business. This is an embarrassment. And these are simple mistakes that could be completely and utterly avoided. But she didn't listen to, I'm sure, a lot of the sound advice she could have gotten and just went hardcore, and now is sitting on potentially millions of dollars. I think I estimated $25 million in stock, maybe 23 million in stock that she has to move. And so it's not looking good.
It's really not. It's really not. Brittany, at the same time, there's been a huge amount of royal news over the weekend. The Sun revealing that Harry wants Charles to open the Invictus Games, which I think would be a huge strategic error for the British monarch. And Tom Sykes is reporting that the king is actually considering this, revealing on his Substack, The Royalist, that William's allies hope King Charles will shut down Harry's Invictus ask, but fear he won't. It's worth me just taking you through some of this reporting from Tom Sykes, Brittany, because it's really interesting but worrying too. The story was leaked to The Sun and has been confirmed to me as essentially true by sources in Harry's camp. After talking to all sides, what I can tell you for sure is that while this is a long way from a done deal, there is a very real possibility that Charles, and Tom Sykes says for some insane reason, might actually be thinking about doing this, much to the chagrin of Prince William, who thinks it is madness, which it is. The story has caused some on the king's side to bristle at what they see as an attempt to bounce the king into attending the games and lending Harry the stamp of legitimacy, but the situation is undeniably nuanced by the fact that the king has shown remarkable indulgence to Harry, meeting him and enabling him in defiance of the clearly understood wishes of his heir, William. Friends of William want the King's team to rebut the Invictus story before it grows legs and hope that the men in grey suits will sprinkle a few scathing and sceptical responses into media briefings in coming days, but they are definitely nervous. He will indeed entertain the idea as part of a broader goal of reconciling with Harry and spending time with his Sussex grandchildren. Friends of the King and Queen told me that any attempt to emotionally manipulate Charles will fail. They pointed to the fact that he is flat out refusing to see Harry when he is in London next week for the opening day of his controversial lawsuit against Associated News as evidence of the King's steel on the matter. However, they notably declined to outright dismiss Harry's suggestion via The Sun that Charles could appear alongside Harry to open the Invictus Games in 2027. Indeed, one friend said, "The King has always made it very clear that he loves both his sons and of course he wants to be reconciled with Harry. It would be a source of great joy to him if trust could improve sufficiently to normalise the relationship." Asked if that meant he would like to appear alongside Harry at the Invictus Games, the source said, "It's still a long way in the future. It's too early to speculate about. One of the King's biggest problems here is hopelessly mixed messages." And Brittany, this is where I'm literally pulling out my hair, because it's like, what was the point, Charles, of all of that briefing last week? You know, I'm toughening up. I'm not going to see Harry when he's here for the court case against Associated Newspapers, only to allow yourself to be bounced into the idea that you are going to go and legitimize the Invictus Games, legitimize Harry and Meghan by appearing at the opening ceremony. Like, the timing is so off, even if it is something you want to do. Then I come to the actual reality of the fact that he is considering doing it. And I'm like, Charles, you are insane. And I'm sorry, and not everyone is going to like this, but you know I've got to be honest about it, Brittany. To me, this is proof that Charles is engaging in some type of war with Prince William. Because why would he? It would be Charles effectively giving his endorsement to a rival a rival Harry and Meghan court in the United Kingdom. It is so wrong.
This situation, I think, exemplifies again how Harry, he just completely disrespects his father, does not care, is I think
All the
cruel
time.
and heartless, because he's putting his father in a really difficult spot, because his father is obviously head of the British Armed Forces. So if Charles doesn't go, it doesn't look like he's supporting the veterans. But if he does go, Invictus is no longer really about the veterans. It's about Harry's ego. But Harry can spin this positively either way to his benefit, whereas Charles, I feel like, is in some ways in a lose-lose scenario. But here's I think the real situation is that I understand, and I do have a lot of sympathy for Charles because he wants to reconcile, but he's dealing with a son, and I don't think he totally understands this yet, that doesn't really want to reconcile in, I think, an appropriate way. Harry wants the look of reconciliation by dragging his father up on the stage for the publicity reasons. No, this reconciliation should be private. Until it happens privately, until I think Harry apologizes for the things that he has done to his family in so many ways, and if he exemplifies a beat of humility, I think that is when Charles could maybe consider this. But at this point, all this is doing is showing that Harry just wants the leverage of his father for the games and the publicity for it. And that's just completely, if Charles goes down this path, he's not going to reconcile, because what Harry is doing, again, is unbelievably cruel, is holding his children over his father's head going, well, you know, you're not going to be able to see them if you don't reconcile with me. And if you don't reconcile with me, if you don't come to the games, like, oh, we won't have this relationship. It's just so icky and awful of Harry to do that. But it's not a surprise either. This is who Harry has become. And Charles, at this point, in order to, I think, serve the monarchy, can't engage in these games. They have to stay away. And perhaps maybe they send somebody like Edward or something to represent, but Charles cannot go along with Harry's games here. He needs to set a firm boundary and say, whatever reconciliation we have, it will not be on the stage of Invictus. It will be, in a room in Windsor, in Clarence House, Sandringham, wherever. We will have maybe a personal reconciliation, but it cannot be on the stage to serve you. It has to serve both of us. And if Harry's not willing to do that, Charles should understand his son is just not there and not willing to give him the respect he deserves.
Totally true. But Brittany, a lot of this has to be on the king.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of this has to be on the king. Toughen up.
Yes.
Because if you look at all of the strategic errors in recent months, it's because he hasn't been tough enough. And William is proven right. So he was proven right very quickly in just a fortnight on the fact that it wasn't going to be enough for Andrew to just say, oh, I'm going to be Prince Andrew, but I'm not going to call myself Prince Andrew. In a fortnight that collapsed. He was very quickly proven right on the Harry meeting. I would argue within 48 hours, Brittany, when Harry left that meeting with the king, flew directly to Ukraine against the wishes of the British government and boasted about the fact that he had no regrets in terms of writing the autobiography Spare, which had attacked Charles's wife, the Queen. I mean, I think this is on Charles. I really do.
Yes, it is on Charles for sure, because really the only answer here for Charles at this point, and this again would prove whether or not Harry actually cares about his father and can get over certain things, is to say, you are outside the royal family. There are consequences to that. You have not abide by the rules we set out. I mean, this is basic parental discipline things. Ergo, no more titles, no more place in the line of succession. I feel like Charles has to let Parliament know he would like to initiate that process in order, because it won't be as easy with Harry as it was with Andrew, and get that done, and then maybe reconcile. But Harry at this point, everything is about him. Everything is about his victim narrative. Everything is about publicity for himself and his wife. And Charles can't really engage with that. But again, I have immense sympathy for Charles and respect him for trying to figure out how to make it work. But Charles, I think, has to set firm boundaries. And I think that's the thing he's struggled with at this point, is that there are no set boundaries. And because of that, it's really easy to sort of move him in one way or another when he should just stand strong on one thing. And if he doesn't get to see his grandchildren, that's not on him. That's on Harry for being, I think, a heartless and cruel son.
Yeah, very true. Very, very true, Brittany. And for much more from Brittany, make sure you subscribe to the brilliant Royal News Network, RNN, on YouTube and X. Thank you so much, Brittany. And if you do want to subscribe to our Royal Uncancelled After Show,